Morning, everybody. Let's do an update on standard elevator. First, let's talk about the silos. You remember I was struggling thinking that these were steel bands, and a couple people thought those lines might just be pour marks. I talked to the company that tore it down, and they said yes, they were steel bands. So in the meantime, I found a couple examples of those that I can show you. One of them actually came from a friend of mine, Maurice Grimes, who's a frequent commenter on the videos. Here's some pictures that Maurice sent me. This was the Newcomb Brothers Coal in 40 Fort, Pennsylvania on the Lehigh Valley's Bowman Creek branch. It was torn down in the 1970s, so it's pretty obvious, especially in this last photo, that those are steel bands. And actually, I found one, I'll show you right after this, right here in Georgetown. I was showing my wife a picture of this building I thought was pretty cool, and there's a silo just like it, actually two, in the back of it. So here's the silo in Georgetown, and I'll show you a picture of the building right after it. Pretty cool old building. I may actually model it sometime, but after standard elevator, it's probably be a lot easier than standard elevator. It's pretty much a rectangle. Let's start with this photo. What I want to talk about in the elevator, really the only thing I've done to it is add the lettering where it says standard elevator up on the side. I got the smallest lettering that Plastrek made and put it on there. So let me show you what it looks like. I think it looks okay. It's obviously too big, but that's as good as I can do. Here's my sign. So what I did, it looked like the original sign was metal letters attached to like maybe two rails on top and bottom. So I did the same thing. If anyone wants to see exactly how I did it, let me know and I'll do a little short video about it. Basically, I taped two really thin styrene strips down on upside down tape and then put the letters along them. It was kind of tedious, but it really didn't take that long. And I think it looks pretty good, even though it's too big. So before we get started on the details on the depot or the office, I thought I'd sort of show you sort of the relative position, not exactly where things are going to go. This is the base for my scenery module. I'm actually in the garage, and I whipped up a piece of photo backdrop so you didn't see how crappy my garage looks. Yeah, so I'll move it around a little bit so you can see it. But these are in close to the relative positions, but until I get farther along, I won't be able to position everything on here. And like Water Street is here. This is the road going down into the park, and there's blacktop here where they park trucks and stuff. And then I'm not going to model Water Street. I'll just model like the curb or something. So I'll make a little diagram out of it just to display it until I get it on a layout someday, if I ever do. So let's focus in on the depot now. So I'll show three sides of it. Of course, this side over here is just going to go against the elevator. It doesn't have any details on it at all. So first of all, some things I've done, and I'll show some photos of the real one. The signs are actually copies of the real signs that were there. I went on the internet and I found pictures, shrunk them down on a computer printer, and put them on there. You remember I talked about the siding was a little bit different on this end. It wasn't board and batten. So that worked out pretty well. It's actually metal siding, but my two, I guess you'd call them, smokestacks or whatever. I guess they're actually solder, very thin solder, because it was the right diameter. And it was easy to move around, especially on the back one because I had to bend it. I've got the sidewalk, so I'll put a picture of the real one in here now so you can sort of compare them. So here's the end view. I sort of left it at a 3/4 view so you can see the step, the concrete step. Actually, the porch up here had like an overhang, so I put a thick piece of styrene and a thin piece of styrene on top of it for the overhang. I have no idea what this little cover over the window was, so Again, the windows are not going to be exactly right. I just had to use commercial products for the windows. I got the closest I could for them. And the windows, actually this window, the 3 on the front and the 2 on the back you're going to see are actually meant to be, I guess you'd say, horizontal. So this side right here is actually supposed to be the sill. So it's a little bit thinner. Again, you guys probably would have never noticed it if I hadn't pointed it out. From this view, you can see I did the downspout. It had a really unusual downspout, as you'll see in the picture. I do have gutters on it, and the gutter is just a super thin piece of styrene rod, painted gray. And then I've got where they tie in together here, and they just like dumped out from 10 feet above the ground, just dumped out. So I've got that on there. And I've got it on the back too. I've got the downspout coming down. So let me rotate it around to show you the back. So again, I've got the downspout here. Got the 3 windows. These 2 windows had to work they're not meant to be like that. I had to modify them. You can see from the photo, it's got like a concrete slab that's sort of slanted down to track level. Got a little stoop there. Everything is just painted the same color when I'm modeling it. I've got pictures earlier where like the doors are painted different color, things like that, but not when I modeled it. And again, like I said, you can see this is just solder, super thin solder. Worked out great. So let me take it off here and I'll show you how the 2 of them fit together a little bit close up. So they had a real steep set of steps coming up here. Mine aren't quite as steep going to that door. And actually, even though the depot I think is the right width, remember I talked about this in a previous video, I couldn't really tell if it was, I made it 24 feet wide. Might have actually been 26 or 28. But I like the way it looks anyhow. So I've got the steps, I got the railing coming down. The spout for the elevator here came down like above the 3rd and 4th door. As you'll see in the photos. And then there's a bunch of pipes coming in here to go to the spout from the other silos. So this is where I'm at. I'm starting to work on the building back here now, which is not as simple as I thought because it's not the full width of the elevator. Remember, that was a brick building at the beginning when it was built, and then they built on top of it. So I'll show that. I'll talk about that in the next update video when I actually show the construction of that. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't think I've missed pointing anything out. So I hope you guys like it. I am going to put a little thing here on the end, an issue I had, and so an issue you might have if you're scratch building. So a little tip about how to avoid that. Now here's a tip if you scratch build in styrene, and I think everyone should try to scratch build something. Maybe start small, a little warehouse, something that doesn't have a lot of windows and weird angles and stuff. But this is something that I'm cutting a window out. Remember I told you I always start small and work my way up. Let me zoom in a little bit maybe. So the window fits in here. We'll put the window in, pop it in. So the window fits, but when I put this square against it, I've pushed the wall out because it's too tight of a fit. When you have styrene like this, it's real thin, you can easily, that out. So what you want is when you put the walls together, you want it to be flat. So I need to open this up just a little bit more so when I put the window in, it doesn't do that rocking action. That's just a tip for you, something that I had to find out on my own. But this styrene is, pretty thin stuff. and it's easily pushed out when you get that close to the wall. If the window was in the middle, wouldn't have that problem. Okay, moving forward with the section that's at the opposite end of the elevator from the depot or office. So that's where I'm at so far. I'll review that in the next update. So everybody stay safe. Have a great week.